All right. In this good afternoon, we will be having a presentation with the topic being Let's Find Out Your Learning Style, which will be presented by Aliya Thaharah as the presenter and Lintang as the moderator who will guide the presentation in this afternoon. Okay, without waiting any longer, to the moderator Lintang, I invite you to take over the meeting.
Thank you, Firza, for the time. Well, before start our presentation, as the moderator, I will read a little of our presenters biodata. Aliya, the full name is Aliya Thaharah, born in Tuban, January 2020, 2004. And she is one of the students of SMAN 1 Tuban. Alright, to set the time, I kindly invite Aliya to deliver the material. Let's find out your learning style. For the audience.
Okay, thank you.
So for the audience, don't forget to fill in the Google form that was shared in the chat column. Thank you.
Is it visible?
Yes, you can start now.
Okay, now I'm going to start the presentation with the title, Let's Find Out Your Learning Style. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Aliya Thaharah. I'm a student at SMA 1 Tuban. I was born in Tuban, January 22nd, 2004. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question first. Have your learning style suitable? For those who doesn't know their learning style is whether suitable or not, I'll ask you a question again. Have you ever experienced learning or studying a material, but you can't even understand a word from them? Well, maybe that's because your learning style is not suitable, or you just don't suitable with your activity that you used to do when you're learning something. So, but don't worry, we're going to discuss about it in this presentation. Okay, what is learning style? According to Gunawan, learning style is the way we prefer to think, process, and understand information. Meanwhile, according to Reid, defines learning styles as the individual's natural, habitual, and preferred way of absorbing, processing, and retaining new information and skills. Because definitely each person in this world have a different way to understand or process an information, and that is what called learning style, which is a certain style that could help them make that could help them process the information easily. Okay, next, what's the important? What why is it important for us to know the suitable learning style? According to the Learning and Skills Research Center in the UK, a suitable learning style makes students more motivated to learn. Imagine when you already know the suitable learning style that you have to do when your learning system runs, you must be motivated to do it again because you could understand the material easily. And next, what is the purpose? The purpose is the purposes are we can optimize our study quality so that we're easy to concentrate and absorb certain informations or material that we studied. And applying how to learn effectively and efficiently through learning styles without having to waste time. Okay, so the first learning style is according to Neil de Fleming version, which called VARC model, which divided into four model, which is visual, auditory, reading or writing, and kinesthetic. The first learning style is visual. Um, by by knowing the name, we also already know what is actually visuals do to process an information easily. That is through visual media such as pictures, diagrams, videos, posters, animations, concept maps, colors, symbols, and graphics to help them process information. So this, the characteristics of visual are difficult to retrieve verbal instructions unless written down, not easily distracted by crowds, and likes to draw on paper. As we know, visual are kind of something that we could see or visible. So it needs to be something like colorful. It could be from a color or pictures from a certain material. So a person who have the learning style which is visual likes to draw on paper, and usually their notebooks are more creative and more colorful than others. So the right way to study are learning from interesting pictures and videos, read books that are not only written but also have illustrations. Use colored markers when taking notes. So the point of visual is that, I'm sorry, so the point of visual is that they need to see pictures and colors so that it could be make them easily to process information. And after that, there is auditory. Of course, it's from the word audio. So the person who have the learning style auditory, they tend to uh, love to hearing lectures, attending tutorials or presentations, stories, and jokes can make it easier for them to understand information. So the characteristic of auditory are easier to remember something from what is heard than seen, and easily distracted by the crowd because they tend to be more sensitive in hearing and enjoy reading by making a sound or moving their lips. But they usually reading a books with a low voice so that they could hear it instead of um, just you know keep quiet when they're reading. So the proper way to study are listen to the music you love while study, and you can record teacher's explanation and then later listen to it again. And third, when you're reading a book, you can read it in a low voice to make it easier to remember. And last, learn by discussing with friends so that it is easier to understand and remember the material. And the next learning style is kinesthetics. In class, they use all five senses to understand information and tend to make frequent physical movements. So actually, these kinesthetic learning styles are is a bit unique because they can't just sit still in the class and are reading something or like learning something, but they need to like do a physical movements. So they need to more like a practical learning. uh, yeah, so the auditory characteristics are, I'm sorry, so the kinesthetic characteristics are enjoy learning with practical methods and when communicating a lot of using body signals and less memorizing by walking or seeing. So this is the one of the unique thing of kinesthetics that they used to reading or like memorizing something with while walking or seeing the environment. So it's a bit unique, and that makes them process an information or learning something easily. The proper way to study for kinesthetics are, if it's possible, try to practice immediately after getting new material and learn while doing activities that involve movement, for example, while walking or as simple as clicking your fingers. And the last, conducting experiments from the material obtained from the teacher. And the last is reading or writing. From the name, we already know that the person who has this learning style must be love to reading or writing. So Those who have this learning style are processing written information and then reading it over and over again. They also need textbooks to be able to absorb information. So this person who have this learning style are love to writing, doing. I'm sorry, are enjoys writing activities or reading activities because um, that that activities are help them uh, to absorb information easily. And they also enjoy summarizing the material studied before or recapitulates the teacher's explanation using his own word, and then makes lists, titles, dictionaries, or reading glossaries, and books and lesson notes as study references. And once studying, they do everything regularly or structured. The proper way to study for reading or writing learning styles are making a list to emphasize important points, create a summary of the material using a dictionary and glossarium, and read written material. So, and there is also a Peter Honey and Alan Manford version of learning styles. There are four also, which is first activist, theorist, pragmatist, and reflector. The first is activist. Activist learning style prefers learning by doing. So when it comes to understanding the theory, they do not necessarily understand well. People with an activist learning style tend to be more open-minded and like to seek out new experiences. So they must be do well in the learn and the practical methods than more like theory. So learning methods that are suitable for activists are through problem solving, group discussion, even even competing with friends. And next, there is theorists. In contrast to activists, these theorists prefer to explore and study theory first before practicing. Even when practicing, they prefer to follow the theory that has been studied. Hence, a learning style that is more suitable for these theorists is a learning style that involves reading or the application of certain theories. Next, there is also pragmatists. These pragmatist people only like things that they think have the practical values. What is a practical value? Practical values are um, asserting things that has something related to a reality, so that uh, for example, a material that could be applied in the reality. So the person who have this learning style used to ask why we need to study this material. Is it has something to do with the reality, or did we could apply this in a reality? If it's not, then they think those materials are not or doesn't have practical value. And the differences uh, and the differences between activists and pragmatists is that activists move with an incomplete understanding of the theory, meanwhile pragmatists enjoy learning theories and discussing new ideas. However, they only like things that really have practical value. Pragmatist people prefer problems in the form of problem solving or case studies. And last, there is reflector. People with this learning style prefer to observe and analyze. So before they make a decision or conclusion of certain material, they will collect data, ask questions, and discuss it with their friends so that they could get different perspectives. And after that, they could make the decision or conclusion. So that are the two version of learning styles. And now we're going to find out how to know our best learning style. First, of course, it comes from ourselves. We need to know what ourselves need. Like, did we love to reading or do we love to writing? And if we do, then maybe we have the learning style of reading or writing. And for those who still confused on like what learning style I am, then you could do a learning style test in the internet. You can find it on internet, everything you can find it there, and where you can, um, I'm sorry. So this learning style test uh, needs to do. There's a lot of questions that you need to answer honestly, so that the result that come out is suitable for you too. And next is it effective for us to do a learning system with a suitable learning style that I've explained before. So actually, it's still being a debatable issues um, for theorists or those scientists, because but at least um, with knowing our best learning style, we could apply that in our learning system so that our learning system could be structured and that our studying could be maximized and so that it is right on target and not carelessly. We could also make a study journal to our learning style, make our learning system more structured. Yeah, that is my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aliya, for the explanation. So now we move to Q&A session. And in this Q&A session, we will answer the same question from the previous session, but the presenter will answer it in English. So the question from the audience is, what if there are students who are taught by a teacher whose learning style is not the same as the student? Presenter, you can answer the question when you are ready. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah. So actually, a teacher should adjust their learning system to their students because from that, the students could processing an information or material easily. But when it comes to a class, imagine there are approximately 30 students there, or it could be more. So it's not just few students. So it is impossible for a teacher to adjust their learning styles, like each of them. So as a student, to anticipate that, we need to know our needs, our own needs. So for example, when we got home, when after we got new material, we could learn that again with our suitable learning styles so that it could help us easier to understand the material that have been explained by our teacher in class. And especially in this pandemic situation where uh, we're not oftenly seeing our teacher only from video conference, uh, it is it is actually a good time for us to apply our learning system in home and learning the material without our teacher with us. Okay, that is my answer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Aliya, for the answer. So we have arrived at the end of the presentation. So please, the presenter to deliver the conclusion of this presentation.
Okay, the conclusion of my presentation is that learning is not just reading, memorizing, then after that you forget about it. However, in the learning process, we also understand the material. So it is difficult for us to forget at, at a later date or and day after. Therefore, learning must also be done properly and not carelessly. There are several learning styles that you could customize uh, and adjust to yourself respectively, namely the Ford model and the Peter Honey and Alan Manford version that I've been explained earlier. Besides that, you can also make a study journal so that your learning system more structured. And that's all my conclusion for this presentation. Thank you.
Fine. Okay. Thank you for the material, knowledge, and the things that have been delivered by the presenter, Aliya. So from here, we can draw a conclusion from what was stated earlier that there are several kind of styles in learning which can help us understand the material so that our learning process could run regularly and we can still remember the material that we have studied before. I think that's all from me. I will return it to the host to close the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Aliya who have delivered the material this afternoon with such a great interest, and to Lintang as the moderator who has guided the course of this event in an orderly manner. To the audience, I also say thank you very much for participating in our meeting in an orderly manner. I, as the host, offer my apologies if there are any mistakes, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Before I close the meeting, I remind you once again who haven't filled the online presence yet to fill it immediately. Okay, thank you. I will end this meeting. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Thank you.
wabarakatuh.